Kinnear. And every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, I hop onto Facebook Live and do a little video about living and learning. This month, we are talking about confidence. We are talking about confidence. What is it? How do we get it? How do we use it in our lives responsibly? So today, we are talking about a mindset for confidence, how to get in that confidence mindset. But before we do that, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to all of you who filled out the Survey Monkey that I sent out yesterday. I'm developing a course on confident leadership. And while I have a lot of exciting content that I'm so excited to bring, I also wanted to make sure that it wasn't just living in my head, but that the content that I create really connects with you. And so I was blown away. I didn't really expect too many people to take the time to fill it out, but you did. I am blown away. I am eternally grateful for all of you who took the 5.5 minutes to fill out those 9 questions and send it to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will put a link in the comments for how you can access a survey. It just gives me information. It's an anonymous survey, and it gives me information about what are your obstacles around confident leadership? What do you hope to get? And if I were to develop a course, which I am developing, what would you want to see? So that's all it is. It's anonymous. I won't be reaching out. There's no sales calls or anything like that. There is an option to put your name and address, email address, if you desire. But otherwise, it's just information for me. And so thank you. So let's dive into confident mindset. Now, why are we talking about mindset? We're talking about mindset because you can have a lot of tools around confidence, around how to build confidence and how to utilize confidence to improve your work, improve your life. However, if you can't quite get into the mindset around it, then those tools, you almost can't even access those tools. So part of the work begins, before we even start talking about tools for confidence, is to get us in the proper mindset. Now, one of the things that is interesting about confidence is it's around belief. Brene Brown, who many of you know I love and follow, and she's amazing. She talks about worthiness and how the distance between whether or not we believe that we are worthy of love and belonging or not is the belief of whether we are worthy of love and belonging or not. That's it. That's the only factor in all of her research that she found. Do you actually believe you are worthy of love and belonging, or do you not believe you are worthy of love and belonging? That's it. And that's the similar thing with confidence. It all matters in our belief. Do we believe in ourselves, or do we not? And what do I mean by believe in ourselves? Part of confidence is the belief in our own resourcefulness and resiliency. That's what confidence really is. It's not about putting on airs. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. Confidence is about believing in your ability to figure things out, to believe in your ability to be resilient, to believe in your ability to bounce back. So, for example, when I had my first child, my daughter, we came home that night, and later that night I said to my husband, well, what do we do if she starts crying? And he said, well, then we'll comfort her. And I said, well, what if that doesn't work? And he said, well, we'll check her diaper. And I said, well, what if that doesn't work? And he said, well, then we'll feed her. And I was like, yeah, but what if that doesn't work? And he's like, then we'll just keep trying things until we figure it out. Now, in that moment, for those of you who know my story, when I had my first child, I was at the bottom of my confidence. I could not find my way out of a paper bag. I mean, I was so low thought so low of myself. And so this is what lack of confidence does, is it kind of messes with our minds and tells us, you don't even know how to do anything. And that's where I was at. And when my husband said, I don't know, we'll just keep trying things until we figure things out, it was like, oh, it kind of woke me up and made me realize, like, oh, yeah, that's right. I can just try things until I figure it out. That's what confidence is. That's the seed of confidence that begins, that if watered, if nurtured, can grow into something bigger and more powerful and more potent. So we start with that belief that I can figure things out. So if you can't speak up in a meeting and it's difficult for you and you're always in self-doubt, then something you can do to cultivate a confident mindset is to remember all the times that you have figured things out in the past, to remember all the times that you have found your way through ambiguity, found your way through uncertainty, found your way through and spoke up even when you weren't certain of what the outcome would be. So part of it is we can remember a time when, and another part is we can trust that if we do speak up, we have the ability to figure things out afterwards. Those of you who know my other story around when I finally spoke without second guessing every single word that was coming out of my mouth, part of what I told myself was just speak and suffer the consequences later. Right? Like, speak and suffer the consequences that come after. So that part of that was trusting in my resiliency, trusting in my ability to figure things out afterwards. And what happened was I was a better communicator. I was able to show up with more presence, and I was able to more clearly articulate what the work I was doing and my team was doing. That's one way how we can shift into that confidence mindset, so that we can remember our resiliency. There's a person that I follow. Michael Gervais. He trains elite athletes and coaches. He actually works for the Seattle Seahawks around mindset, and he's a sports psychologist. And what he talks about is, for athletes, the riskiest time is when they are between doubt and commitment. That's when they're most vulnerable to injury. That's when they're most vulnerable to getting hurt, is when they are in that place between doubt and commitment. And while that applies on the field, and maybe none of us are ever going to be elite athletes in this way, but I believe it applies in the workplace as well. It applies in so many parts of our lives, that we are in our most risk, our most open to BS politics, people having power over us, people trying to control us, when we are between our doubt and our commitment. So part of the confident mindset is to help us get into the commitment, to help us visualize ourselves in that resourceful way and really step into the commitment and leave that doubt behind. It requires us to kind of take that step, because what I find is that people, particularly, in the workplace, sometimes people will get into that office politics BS. They will get into that trying to have power over, trying to be the brightest star. And so if they see someone coming up and threatening their territory, they will do everything they can to shut that person down and to keep them in their self-doubt, because that is when they are no longer a threat. If they can keep you in your self-doubt, you're no longer a threat. So part of building confidence is committing yourself to your ability of, like, I can just figure things out. I don't need to know all the answers. I don't need to have it all figured out. But I know that I'm really good at problem solving, and I know that I can figure things out once I get there. And committing ourselves to that vision of ourselves, instead of the self-doubting, like spinning and, oh gosh, I did that wrong, and that person, those critics in our life that show up. When we spend time visualizing that, then we stay in our self-doubt. And so part of our work becomes visualizing ourselves in another way. Just one more thing, and then I want to acknowledge. Well, let me acknowledge the people on here first, and then I will talk about one more thing. Colleen, Jennifer, Katie, hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me live, and hello to everyone joining me on the replay later on. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. But one more thing around that visualization is that, what athletes do is they run tape, right? Like they watch themselves on tape so that they can learn around what they did wrong or that what didn't work. And they can then visualize themselves approaching it in a different way in the future. So they can take this thing that maybe didn't sit right and they can visualize, they use it as a tool to visualize themselves doing it in a more efficient way and whatever, in a way that works. And now while we in the workplace or in our lives, while we can't run tape, we're not getting videotape doing what we're doing, thank goodness. But what we do oftentimes, hopefully, is that we're running our own tapes, right? Like when we leave a meeting, or when we're up at 3 a.m, or whenever it hits us, we're replaying the events of the day, and we're replaying what we said, what the other person said, what the response was, and that's our way of running tape. Now, if we run tape like that, so to speak, run tape, and we are constantly attacking and criticizing ourselves for how we did it wrong and how stupid was that, and oh my gosh, let's just take a look at that horrible thing that happened once again, it's not helpful. Like that would not be helpful to an elite athlete, and that is not helpful to us. What is helpful, though, is to look at that and go, okay, how would I envision myself doing this moving forward? How can I run tape in that way? Using it as a learning tool to go, okay, how would I handle a situation like that again? Now, we don't want to get all George Costanza and the Jerk Store. Google that if you want to know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who know Seinfeld, where he remembers that comeback, once he's in his car. Like, we don't want to get that. We don't want to get hyper focused on recreating the moment that's already passed and like giving them the zinger. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is, oh, I think I misheard that person. Maybe taking a little moment to listen more. Or that was an opportunity to speak up. That was actually an opportunity to say something. Or that was an opportunity to apologize or to take accountability, and I didn't. So if something happens like that, whatever it may be, then this is my way of like envisioning myself to step up. So this is how we can use that power of visualization to get us in that more confident mindset, so that when we get into that situation again, because we will, because life happens, we're not running the tape of our failures and, oh, it's going to be terrible again. Rather, we're running the tape of, oh, wait, I know how to figure this out. I know what I can do. So that is what I leave you with. Thank you for all the laughter on the Seinfeld comment. For those of you who don't know, George Costanza, Jerk Store, you'll find it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. I encourage you this week to mind your confidence, mind your mindset, remember your resiliency, remember your ability to problem solve and to figure things out. It is there. Even if you don't believe it is, it's there. Do your best to tap into it and you'll see the magic that flows. I wish you a wonderful week. I will post a link again to the survey that I'm conducting. It's an anonymous survey. I would love and appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much for those of you who filled it out, and thank you to all of you who plan to fill it out. I'll have it open for the next week until February 11th. Thank you so much. I wish you a wonderful week of living and learning, and I'll see you next week. Bye.